Hello and welcome to Gaggia TV. My name is Mike, this is Nick.
Hi.
And this is the beginning of our introduction to coffee, a barista course if you like, a fairly basic home barista course designed more for people who've just bought one of our machines. They want to know more about coffee, you want to be able to talk about it, you want to make some informed choices about the kind of coffee you're drinking, which is good actually because today, in this episode, we're just going to talk about coffee.
We are indeed, yeah, we are going to talk about coffee. We do a few different varieties of coffee, and this is a good place to start because what we're trying to illustrate is, as Mike says, you know, the different varieties and types, what to look for really, and they're in the wrong order, aren't they?
They are actually. So if we switch those around, there we go, because now we're from lightest to darkest, but also most Arabica to least Arabica, which is...
Yeah, there are two main types of coffee beans.
Okay.
That is Arabica and Robusta.
Right.
And there's a few differences, how they're grown, where they're grown, the yield, etc. One of the most obvious differences is the size. Generally speaking, Robusta beans are smaller than Arabica beans.
They are. We're going to cut in a photograph of the pair of them side by side, just here, so that you can see that. And the Arabica is a smaller bean than the Robusta.
It is. But the most important difference between the two beans is that the Robusta bean has twice the caffeine levels as an Arabica. Which,
as we've discussed before, is not just in terms of like the amount of drug that you're getting and how awake you'll feel after drinking Robusta blends, but also caffeine has a taste, and that changes the taste of the coffee.
It's a bitterness, it's a bit of an aftertaste with it, and you can definitely taste, you know, as you go through these varieties. And as we started to say, this is the red bag of Gaggia is a 100% Arabica bean. The black bag, which is we sell as Intenso coffee, is 80% the same as this.
Yeah.
20% of the contents is the Robusta bean.
Yes.
So you're getting a little bit more of a kick, a bit more maybe authentic Italian style espresso.
Yeah.
And then we go to the Cafitoli Corposo, which has a minimum of 40% Robusta.
Yes.
So there's almost half of the beans that are in that bag are Robusta bean.
Yeah.
And boy, can you tell.
You really can. I mean, if you, like
makes
when you're wandering down the supermarket aisle and you're looking at different kinds of bean and different kinds of coffee, it will tell you the Robusta blend on the back sometimes, or it will be, you might look for 100% Arabica. Or
you always see 100% Arabica.
Yeah.
And you will then see, most of the time it says a blend of. Even our bags, to be honest with you, say Arabica spiced with
Robusta.
But it doesn't tell you the percentage.
It doesn't, no.
So, you know, you're better going to a coffee specialist, proper roaster, and we indeed sell our own beans that we roast in a roaster we have in Northampton. And, you know, they will know the contents. Obviously, we know because we're interested in that. But the general supermarket is not really going to know. So they do promote it when it's 100% Arabica. Because it's perceived to be the better.
It is. I mean, Arabica is a more expensive bean simply because it's harder to grow. It grows at higher elevations in smaller plots. It takes longer. You need a very specific kind of weather, yada yada.
Yeah.
And it is then, because it's more expensive, perceived to be a higher quality.
It is, but it always depends what you're looking for.
Indeed.
And if you want that, as I say, more authentic style with a bit of kick, then my personal opinion is you need a little bit of Robusta bean in there as well.
Yeah.
And I like this one. This, for me, is very strong. And I like that one, and I would drink it, but not regularly. My regular choice would be that. And I know you sort of favour the Arabica.
I do, yeah.
The Arabicas are a very easy drinking.
It is.
And you get more, and I always say, traditional coffee flavour, which is a ridiculous statement.
I understand.
But it is that more rounded. You taste the bean more, I think, with that. And also the roast comes into this as well.
Yeah.
And the Arabica is roasted out a little bit lighter than the other two coffees.
Which, I mean, leads us neatly on to roast.
Fantastic.
I know, what a segue.
As if it was meant to be.
I know, it's almost like we planned this.
So when you roast in beans, now there are very different types of roasting. The one that we use, we have a flame roaster.
Yeah.
So it's like a drum, flame going through the middle, and this rotates, turning coffee beans. And it goes from light to dark, or light, medium to dark, really.
I mean, roasting is, if you're just starting out looking at and getting interested in coffee, roasting is the single biggest factor that you can look at. Certainly as you're wandering down the supermarket aisle, when they have like strength 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 or whatever that company happens to use, whether it's Taylor's and Harrogate or Supermarkets Own or what have you, what they're generally talking about is the roast.
Basically, yeah. So if you see something that's called Italian roast, that is traditionally a darker.
It's really quite dark.
Roast, yeah. And what that tends to do is the roast, the longer the roast, the darker the bean, obviously. Yeah. But it kind of takes over the flavour of the coffee bean itself.
It does, yeah.
So masking that and giving it that sort of burnt aftertaste, again, affecting the flavour considerably.
We'll cut in now. I mean, so these are green beans. This is what it looks like coming out of effectively the sack. You know, they've been processed in the farm. They've come out of the cherries. They've been harvested and dried and shipped, and they come in burlap sacks as green beans, which look like this. And then if you roast them for a little bit, you get a light roast, which looks quite like this. Then you've got a medium one that looks like this, and then finally you've got a very dark roast, which looks like this.
And you can get an oily shine on it.
You can, yeah.
With the darker roast as well. The oils come out of the bean a little bit, and again, that adds to that sort of kick and burnt flavour.
Well, I mean, burnt is kind of a subjective thing. It's kind of really horses for courses in that the significantly darker roasts are more suited to milky drinks. So if you're looking for, if you're a person who likes a latte or a cappuccino, then the milkier drink is going to suit a darker roast because that coffee flavour can then cut through.
Yeah.
Equally, darker roast are used as a kind of after dinner drink because you've just had something sweet and now the darker roast offsets that sweetness. And also, darker roasts are, I have no idea whether this is scientifically proven or anything, they're said to be easier to digest.
The acidity drops.
Yes.
Apparently. There's science behind this.
Is there? Okay.
There must be.
Fine.
You should know.
I know.
So, the longer you roast the bean, the acidity drops right down on the bean, so it is easier to digest, easier on the stomach. Which, again, is something worth knowing, because if you're drinking a very light roasted bean, and if it's a high caffeine content, so it's more robusta, that's going to be harder to digest than a dark roast, which it doesn't seem logical, really, but that is the way it works. That is the way it works.
And with lighter roasts, you get more of the flavour of the individual bean coming through. So you can get, in the lighter roast is the place where you get the flavour notes like, citrus or slightly fruity or blackberry or, oak kind of flavours. Coffee flavours coming through. Whereas if you have a dark roast, it tends to just all be masked by the fact that you've got an incredibly intense coffee.
It can be, yeah. And depends what you're looking for.
It depends what you're looking for entirely. I would advocate that you go out and buy 3, from the same company. Go for, if it was me, I would advocate buying these 3 coffees and trying a bit of all 3 and then seeing where you go for. But if you can't get hold of these for whatever reason, the link to buy them is in the description. But buy 3 of a different roast from the same company and see what you like.
And of course, you can always mix your own.
You can always mix
your own. So if you tried the Arabica and thought that's nice, but I just want a little bit more, you could put a 20%, 25% of the Corposo in it and make a blend specific to yourself and give it your own name. You
could.
All those.
The final thing to talk about is grind size, because if you've just bought a grinder, then this is something to talk about. This is the MDF grinder we've got right here. What would be your guidance on grinding for a beginner who's just bought their own machine?
Well, it depends on the machine you've got.
Right,
obviously. Bean to cup machine, you've got grind settings on there.
Yeah.
As a general rule of thumb, the finer you grind the coffee, the more flavour you get out of it.
Yes.
Better, in inverted commas, coffee it is, but the better flavour you get out of it. It's a little bit of trial and error, certainly with the manual machine. But you need to go for it as fine as possible. There are 2 main types of grinder: a blade grinder and a burr grinder.
Right.
The blade grinders are like a liquidizer blender.
Yeah.
And they're not really suitable for espresso machines.
Not really, because all they're doing is they're smashing apart the coffee machines with high velocity metal. That's basically what's...
They process the bean, so you're getting dust and you still get maybe half a bean in that same scoop, so the coffee machine doesn't really know what to do. So the burr grinder works between 2 discs or 2 plates, and that's adjustable.
Right.
So if you want a slightly milder coffee, you can make it slightly coarser.
Yeah.
And we'll come on to espresso and extraction times in a moment.
Yeah.
In another section.
Well, episode 2 is going to be about black coffee and black coffee drinks, so we can talk about that in more detail here. But just to cut in, like a very fine grind will look something like this, and it has the consistency of almost sand.
Yeah.
That requires more effort for water to be processed through, and you get a significantly higher surface area to volume ratio in your grind, which basically means you get significantly more flavour out of this coffee.
Yeah.
A coarser grind will look something like this, and the extraction times are significantly longer. As a rule of thumb, depending on how long the water is in contact with the coffee for, the coarser you want your grind. So if you've got something like a French press or a cafetiere in this country, where the water sits in it for 4 minutes, you want quite a coarse grind, whereas the espresso is pulled in 20, 25, 30 seconds, and you want something really quite fine.
Yeah. So that's that on the grind, ready?
Yeah.
We talk about storage.
We can quickly talk about storage.
Talk about storage. When you buy beans, that's the best way to buy your coffee. Just briefly on green beans, you don't buy green beans, but green beans have no shelf life on them.
Right.
They're in an inert state, and as long as they're stored correctly, they will last forever.
Yeah.
When you've roasted a bean, you then put like a use by really on it.
Yeah, you kind of do.
Now, if it's sealed correctly, this has got a little valve on the bag, and if they're screwed down when you're storing them, so all the air out, if they're kept in a cool place, a good year.
Yeah.
A good year when it's...
They are gently going to go off, because they do release carbon dioxide
They do, yeah.
as they decay is the wrong word, but that's essentially what's going on. And they will release carbon dioxide, which is why you have the valve on the bag to allow that carbon dioxide out, but nothing in.
No air in, no
Yeah.
oxygen in.
But it is okay to store them like this.
Oh, very much so. And, you know, in a cool environment, really. The problem if you've ground beans or if you buy ground coffee, this is a very short shelf life, really.
Yeah.
Traditionally, you know, you buy coffee in 250-gram bags or tins.
Yeah.
Once you've opened that tin, you get a lovely aroma. Well, that is your flavour.
Yeah, right.
Basically, that's your flavour.
Yeah, all those flavour molecules escaping,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
so you need to be drinking that, realistically, I would say within 2 weeks, to be honest.
Yeah.
And if you made a coffee with a freshly opened tin and one that had been open for 2 weeks, you'd notice a massive,
You would be able to tell.
difference.
Yeah,
Massive
yeah.
difference. Now, in a 250-gram tin, just for reference, there's about 30 coffees.
Right.
So if you think you're going to get through that in a couple of weeks, that's absolutely
Yeah,
fine.
I mean, that's 2 coffees a day, isn't it? So that's
not
not
too bad.
unrealistic as a...
No, it's not too bad.
as a
But
kind of
if that
benchmark.
sort of thing's going to last you 4 to 6 weeks, then you really aren't getting the best flavour out of your coffee, really.
Yeah.
So it might be a good idea to invest in a grinder where you can keep the beans and grind it as you need it, really.
Brilliant. So the next episode is going to be about black coffee. We're going to look at espresso and a couple of other black coffee derivatives. Episode 3, we're going to look at milky drinks.
We are, indeed,
and
yeah.
milk frothing and milk
Yeah.
foaming, and also how you can make things like a cappuccino or a latte and things like that. And then episode 4 is the circus stuff. It's, you like episode 4. That's
I
fun.
love it. Can't wait.
With layered lattes and syrups and all the rest of it.
Well, there we go.
Okay, the link to the link to the next episode is just down there in the description.
He's
See you
gonna
there.
cut that. Right.